Stream is offline. Stream info. Can I do this? Oh, doesn't look like I can. Okay, well, I'll figure that one out later. Okay, sorry about that, everybody. I was trying to get YouTube to work at the same time. I see some people logging in here. Hello, Jacqueline. Let's see who else. Can I scroll on this one? Christina, hello. Courtney, hello. Jean Simon, hello. Violet, hello. Thank you for the hearts, the thumbs up. I see those jumping by. I appreciate all of you being here so much. And I did a last minute audible. We were originally going to talk about health and how exercise can do for your mind. If that's something you'd still all like to visit at a later date, please leave it in the comments below. We can definitely do that. The reason I switched this over and am going to dabble into the political world right now is because, quite frankly, it's almost, I think shocking is too much of a soft word to see some of the stuff that's going on out in the United States and comments around the world. What I'm going to attempt to do is to have this talk not be political. I think any of you who have watched American politics or live in America have had enough politics shoved down your throats for quite some time. Josie, hello. And instead what I intend for this to be is a conversation about what you can do to really live and empower your own life despite whatever election result came out. Meaning that if you got an unfavorable outcome or you got a favorable outcome, I think that this is really about your personal power. What I kindly request all of you is to not bring in your opinions, especially if they are negative and hurtful and disrespectful towards a specific group or a specific belief system or even a specific candidate. Quite frankly, I think there's more than enough out there online right now, and that's one of my motivations for doing this, because I've gotten to the point, whoops, sorry, no worries. I've gotten to the point where I'm so fed up with the generalizations and the extremes people are taking this that I felt that I wouldn't be doing what I had to offer if I didn't say something. And that's really the intention behind this, is to hopefully bring in some personal power to all of you and to sprinkle in some love that hopefully inspires all you to take it and share it with other people at a time when it doesn't seem like people are necessarily wanting to do that all the time. And again, I'm making a generalization here with that. This is going to be a fairly off-the-cuff talk. I have a couple little bullet points I want to touch on here just to make sure I give you some good tips and some good ideas and some good strategies. And please forgive me if I do get a little on somewhat of a tangent at times, or I might drop a couple swear words in there. I am passionate about this, and I'm not. And when I say this, this is not politics. The thing that I'm passionate about is all of you. The thing I'm passionate about is people. The thing I'm passionate about is seeing people live their absolutely best and most fulfilling lives possible. And my intention here today is to hopefully help all of you do that, so that you can then in turn take what you extrapolate from today, and I hope that you can share it with somebody who you love and care about. With that being said, I think I got this. Okay, cool. With that being said, so let's dive into this. Tips for making the next 4 years of your life the best 4 years. I saw on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I mean, pretty much all over social media, Wednesday especially, and maybe a little less today because I kind of said, okay, no more being on here. People talking about how the world's going to end, how their life is ruined, how they were unable to get out of bed, how they were so angry, how they were so pissed off, how this person ruined their life, how it wasn't fair, how they should celebrate, how they're so joyful, how they're so happy they can't contain it, right? And I saw so much of that. I even had the first conversation I had Wednesday morning, I saw a friend, and my friend started, and I said, hello, how are you doing today? And the friend looks at me and says, awful. And I said, awful, why? And he said, well, I'm just so ashamed to be an American right now. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, because of what happened yesterday. And I go, what happened yesterday? And he goes, I just can't believe that we elected this person. And I go, yeah, that's what we do in a democracy. We elect people. And he said, well, blah, 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 blah. You know, and he goes on the usual things, and I won't go into there because you've all heard the positive, negative arguments everybody's made about both candidates, or both of our main candidates, Hillary and Donald. And he said, I'm so ashamed to be American, I think I might move. I said, cool. When are you going to do that? And he kind of looked at me and said, what? I said, when are you going to do that? I said, well, when's the inauguration? I said, usually around January 20th. He goes, well, before then. I go, okay, cool. And so should we plan a going away party for you? He said, well, and I go, and so does that mean we're going to cancel your birthday in February because you were planning on having that birthday party a couple weeks later, but you're not going to move. He was saying he was going to move to France. I was saying, you're not going to move to France and then come back 2 weeks later, are you? And he goes, well, and we had this, not really a discussion, but I was pretty firm in my point of if he really wanted to, and this isn't me saying, well, if you want to leave, leave. This isn't what it's at. That's not that rhetoric at all. What I was saying was, which eventually got to the point, is he finally acquiesced and he said, well, maybe I'm not so firm about that. Maybe I'm not quite going to leave. And I said, in my opinion, here's part of the problem. And this is one of my motivations for being here. We react and we put so much emotion into things. And so many people are saying that their life, the quality of their life is going to be determined by who's in charge. Right? I don't know about all of you, and I know quite a few of you are joining us here internationally, but my day-to-day life, it doesn't matter who's got the suit on or the pantsuit on or who's wearing the little American flag button. I'm picking and choosing the quality of my life each and every day. And he was so resigned to allowing his quality of life to be ruined by who was elected, which obviously wasn't who he wanted to have in power. So much so that he's going to take it to the extreme. Now, here's where this happens. There's so much emotional energy behind that. That's emotional energy that he's taking away from himself and his own quality of life that he can build for himself, and he's putting it out here. Right? And he's now basically turning over to this one person and saying that his life is never going to be what it could be, or he's ashamed to be where he is, and all these things because of this one person. I mean, excuse me, but hello, this is where we go, # hello. What happened to personal responsibility? The thing I found most ironic in this whole election process was the amount of blaming and finger pointing going back and forth at one another, right? The amount of negative crap put out by both people was it was unreal. And I'm thinking, who are these people's parents? Right? Who are these people's parents? Those of you who are parents here, and please back me up, because I'm not a parent, so those of you who are parents here, please back me up. If your child did something, would you want them to either A, blame another person and try to pass the blame, B, try to do this back and forth, well, they did this, so it doesn't make what I did so bad, or would you rather see just them own up to it and take responsibility and say, move on? Right? On the same note of that, would you rather your child, if something happened, let's say they had a bad day in school, and things didn't go their way, they got a bad grade on the test, or, little Susie called little Johnny a poopy face. And little Johnny comes home and he says, Mom, little Susie called, my life is ruined because little Susie called me a poopy face. what kind of feedback would you give to little Johnny? Would you tell little Johnny, well, here's the way to handle this. Go online and tell little Susie what a, bleep, 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 bleep she is. Get behind your keyboard and start to tell little Susie or the world about what a bleep, 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 bleep little Susie is. Maybe escalate, call more names, or stay at home and never go outside again because little Susie has now ruined your life. No, of course you wouldn't. You would tell little Johnny something really loving. Probably say something. Well, little Susie's just coming from a place. She doesn't know any better. She's learning. She's probably thinking about something else. When she's making that label of you, she's only probably using it with limited information. Say, little Johnny, if you went and did all those things, you're not going to be any better than what little Susie is. And in fact, you'll probably encourage more of the behavior because you're bringing yourself down to her level. I'm guessing that most of you as parents, and seeing all the thumbs up and the hearts and the smiley faces going around, would probably do something more like that. Yet that's not what's happening right now. At least what we see in a lot of the media and on the social media and such, is people are taking it and they're going to these extremes, right? If their person lost, they're calling other people racists and everything else. If their person won, they're calling other people, calling them crybabies and sore losers, right? There is so much emotion going on right now. And my challenge to all of you is this, is to identify clearly, and this is tip number one, identify clearly where that emotion's coming from, meaning what is it that you're so passionate about right now? What is it that you are so fired up about right now? What is it that you are so just emotionally charged right now? Because you see it, right? I mean, I've seen more people write in caps lock this last few days than I've seen in probably the whole year. And it's been a pretty crazy year with all this nonsense that's been going on, right? I mean, how many of you, right? And it's because there's so much emotion right now. I don't know about you, maybe you've experienced this, and you can do a comment yes or just a thumbs up or a smiley face. How many of you can't even have political conversations with a friend, a family member, because as soon as you start to say, as soon as the inevitable question asks, who are you voting for? When you say whoever it is, they immediately start yelling. In fact, so much so that you can tell which news organization they watch by the way they yell and the way they gesture. Oh, there's a Bill O'Reilly right there, right? Oh, there's an Anderson Cooper right there. Right? You can literally see them regurgitating what they've taught on the news. And there's no discussion. Instead, it just turns this yelling match. I would say probably 85% of the people I talk with on a regular basis, I don't even bother trying to because I see lots of it. So this is connecting with you all. I would say probably 85% of the people literally in my day-to-day life that I talk to on a regular basis, I don't even go there politically anymore. And what I tell all of them is I could care less what you believe. What I care about is that you believe what you believe. Meaning that who you vote for, what you believe in, that's awesome. That's awesome you have those beliefs, but make sure the beliefs are yours. Make sure the beliefs are yours, and that's kind of a little bonus tip in this, and we'll throw it in now and then I'll get back to tip one, is make sure your beliefs are yours. Right? So much of this, and we'll get to this in the negative part a little bit later, we'll talk about the media, is stuff that's fed down to you so you believe whatever it is that you're going to believe, something that's going to be emotional. Right? In sales, they say, talk about pushing on the pain points. Well, you push on somebody's pain points enough, and they're going to start to believe that whatever is being told to them is true. And inevitably, you experience what we all did, which is you try to talk to somebody, and they can't talk because they just immediately get emotional and react. Now, that tells me that there's a lot of passion out there, and passion's a good thing. Because with passion is what can push us forward. You think about the things in life, again, those of you who are parents, I would guess that your children are probably one of the things that you are the most, if not the most, passionate about. Right? You would probably do anything for them. And so if something happened and you needed to put the emotion in to get that done, you would get it done. Those of you who have careers that you're passionate about, right? How many of you would take that and do whatever you could in that career to help, to push it out there, to get it to go, right? Right? Your passion is so powerful, and so I see so many people out there that are passionate about these things, right? Passionate about these things. I already see somebody, but the big picture is the president is someone who controls some things that may life somehow. So we'll get to that, Leslie, in a little bit, Kay. I appreciate your input, and we'll get to that. We all have so much energy inside of us, so much emotion. Now, here's what's tragic is sometimes most of us, this is our emotional peak, meaning that we get the most fired up that we're going to get in our entire life with what's going on right now. Right? All of a sudden, there's something that we can jump on board, and because other people are screaming and yelling or chanting and cheering, we can get behind that, and then all of a sudden it comes up, and guess what? Emotion feels good, and passion feels even better. And we will direct that passion outwards, right? Pointing fingers, blaming, whatever it is. This person did this person's deciding my life, this person won, this person lost, whatever it is. Again, I'm not going to revisit that because you all have been having it probably crammed down your throat as much as I have. What I will say is that there's a tremendous amount of passion out there. And now my challenge to all of you and my encouragement to all of you is this. Figure out what specifically it is you're passionate about. And when I say what specifically is you're passionate about, the positive. Not the negative that you're not passionate about, but the positive. Meaning, for example, there was quite a few people who were pretty passionate about Hillary's emails. Right? Hillary's emails, and that she was a liar and manipulator or whatever it is. And then they're going on, and that's their passion, right? She's jeopardizing national security. She's this, she's that. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of passion in that. Now, the positive side of that might be, if this is something that means so much to me, this person breaking national security, this person using their email, this person maybe putting people at risk, how could I possibly educate people? How could I maybe bring community awareness about transmitting information? How could I maybe introduce a leadership course about really being cautious about what we send out online? How could I educate people about keeping certain conversations only in a certain area, right? Because there's an opportunity to educate. Right? There's an opportunity to take that passion, instead of pointing the fingers of blame at other people, instead of trying to cut other people down, instead of trying to say why everybody else is wrong, you take it and identify what specifically it is you're passionate about and how you could take that passion and live it. Because the emotion that you're feeling right now, it does not have to stop here. Right? So many people get angry because when we're angry, we feel so certain. And when we feel certain, we feel powerful. And when we feel powerful, guess what we all feel? I'll give you all one chance to guess it in. I'll give you a hint. It starts with an R and it ends with an ite. Right. Right? I'll tell you one thing you can be absolutely certain that you are right about right now, is that you have something to be passionate about, and not only that, but you could contribute to that. You can contribute to that, so figure out what it is, and the positive of it, not the negative of it. Not the negative of it. Because I promise you, it's there. It is there, which leads me on to step 2. Or tip number 2 is, once you identify what that passion is, take all this emotion that's going on and channel it into that passion. Channel it into that passion. Again, so many of us, this is the peak we hit emotionally for the next 4 years. Right? It's the peak. This is why they have what they call the mob effect, right? People will get so fired up. This is why people love concerts. Right? Because you go to a concert and you surround yourself with a group of like-minded people and everybody's screaming and yelling and chanting and singing along, and it feels good. The emotion rises because you're a part of something. Right? And so with what we have right now with politics, we push on those pain points, right? Because that's what good salesmanship is. And then we interject passion. We interject emotion. And so you have people, friends, family, neighbors, somebody you're watching and following online, looking in and getting fired up about something. Right? And they push the pain points. What are the pain points, right? Liar, racism, etc., right? I mean, this particular campaign has taken it to some extremes, right? Taken it to some extremes. I saw President Obama delicately and eloquently put what he called a rather strange campaign season. But it's so true, right? Everything seemed to have been able to be tolerable here. And that emotion doesn't have to stop. See, for a lot of us, the bubble bursts, because what happens is it starts to fizzle, and then we go back to our lives. And we realize that we never feel quite as high in our day-to-day life as we did when we were fired up about whatever it was we were fired up about. Right? Any of you ever experienced this before? Who has ever felt mad, and then the contrast of when they feel mad and when they're not, it's pretty dramatic, right? I mean, you don't have the same emotion. Same thing as when you're really in love, like when you first start dating somebody, and then you get into the relationship, and the relationship loses that. Right? Anybody ever been that in a relationship? You get in the relationship, it's all hot and heavy at first, you can't keep your hands off each other, and there's kissy-kissy and touchy-touchy and boom-boom all the time. And then time goes on. And then there's life that happens, and jobs and careers and kids and all those things get in there and get involved, and suddenly, all of a sudden, some of the kissy-kissy, touchy-touchy and boom-boom isn't quite the same. There might be a kiss here and a touch there, and every second Saturday maybe a boom, but not necessarily boom-boom. Right? Because we don't have the same emotion channeled into it. Same thing with this. Right? There's so much emotion, and what you're experiencing right now is emotion from inside of you. You're creating it. It's not somebody else. It's you. It's coming from within. And the fact that it can come from within right now means it can come from within any and all times. And if you want to feel like this all the time, not necessarily angry, pissed off, frustrated, but emotional, passionate, and if you want to feel like this all the time, take what you're feeling right now, figure out what it is you're passionate about, and channel that into that passion. Not the negative, but the positive of it. Not the negative, but the positive of it. You can have that emotional high all the time because it's available to you anytime because it comes from within. And this circles back around to my point about who's in charge is not going to dictate the quality of your life. It's going to you are. Because nobody's going to choose your emotions. Nobody's going to choose your thoughts. You are. The quality of life, if you need more evidence and more of an expert on it, look at Viktor Frankl and read his book, Man's Search for Meaning. This man, as he was being tortured in a concentration camp, realized and started to feel pity and sympathy for his torturers because he realized that they were brainwashed into doing whatever it was they're doing. They weren't as free thinking as he was. He realized that he and he alone had the freedom to choose his attitude. That no man, no woman, no one could take away from him that freedom, that he had it. And guess what? That same freedom is available to each and every one of you today. The freedom to choose what you're going to do with this emotional energy that you feel. This passion that's rising up inside of you and how you're going to channel it. The tragedy, and there is a tragedy in all this. The tragedy is that if time goes on, and at the end of this, a few weeks, a couple months pass, and you allow all that emotion, that passion to go to waste. Meaning you allow it to fizzle away and you never identify what it is you're passionate about and you never put that emotion to work for you. The tragedy is this, is if your passion, your energy, emotion, it never goes past the status update of I'm so angry, I'm so upset, I'm so excited, I'm so this, I'm so that. And then the conversations that ensue. And there's been some doozies of them on there. I don't know if any of you spent any time scrolling through your Facebook news feeds. But, there's some of them on there that I have been hesitant in the past to, start hiding news feeds because, I accept that people aren't their behaviors and I find it fascinating from a psychology standpoint of watching and observing the human behavior. But it's getting to the point where, honestly, it's so freaking out of control and negative that I don't want to surround myself with it, which is going to lead on to the third point here, but I really want to hit home with this. Emotion comes from within, and it's created by you. Passion is something that is all over the place right now. The irony of this is the news is going to spin it like everybody's so angry, pissed off, and upset. Bullshit. It's people are passionate, and passion is power, and passion is such a beautiful thing, and it is something sadly so many of us are so void of in our life. The only tragedy, in my opinion, that comes away from this is that if all of you let that passion that you're feeling right now die. Is some of it misdirected right now? Absolutely, and that comes from education. It comes from us being trained to focus so much on the negative part of it that we're not looking at the other side. Remember, there's always two sides to every coin. There is another side to what you're feeling. This goes on to step 3, is which removing the negative and the distractions. Because the negative will have you trained to only see that. Right? I have 2 acronyms for the news, and this would be the number 1 negative I would encourage you to remove. In fact, one of my goals is going to be for 2017, and I'm starting it sooner than later, meaning starting it now, is just never to cease watching any sort of mainstream media news. Right? Cease watching any sort of mainstream media news. Now, I want to be up to date. Is this still going on Facebook? It just said it was paused. You all can still hear me, right? Right? Okay, cool. It looks like it. I see it up on the computer. Here's my 2 acronyms for news. News. Negative every waking second. What do you think of that one? News. Negative every waking second. Here's another one. News. Nothing even worth seeing. News. Nothing even worth seeing. I thought those were pretty clever, right? News. Negative every waking second. News. Nothing even worth seeing. Right? I mean, come on. And I remember told once upon a time by somebody in the media, and I was asking them, why is it that the news, this sphere of influence, why is it that they don't report on more positive things? Because I was talking to him, and I know the person pretty well, and I said, I know you agree with me that there is way more good, way more love, way more joy, way more positive stuff in the world than there is all this other stuff. They said, well, yeah, absolutely. And I go, so why isn't that showcased? Why isn't that the focus? Why is it that we're trained that the only thing that's news is death, destruction, and mayhem? And we're getting to the point that the only time that's news is if there's some sort of racial component of it too, right? I mean, really, if we look at how much the news, and forgive me, I know some of you are here that aren't in the United States, but you're around the world, that's really what it is, right? That's what we're getting taught that news is. And they responded to me and they said, Jesse, the reason is you're absolutely right, and the reason is essentially this: if it bleeds, it leads. I said, if it bleeds, it leads. What the hell do you mean by that? If it bleeds, it leads. They said, think about it, if it bleeds, it leads. Right? We go back to salesmanship. A good salesman is going to push on somebody's pain points. Right? You get them to move forward. You identify what somebody's pain point is, and you get them to move, because people are going to be more motivated to get away from fear. People are going to be more motivated to do something if their fear comes up, if there's a pain point that comes up. And so what does the news do? They shove it down our throat each and every night. Why? Because they're a business, and because they're going to do something like a good businessman or woman's going to do, is they're going to always leave you feeling like you need them and you need to keep coming back. Right? I mean, think about how many of us tune in the news and we feel happy and joyous afterwards. Sometimes I catch it when it might be on in the gym. I feel like I need to take a shower afterwards. And I'm pretty water conscious here in California because there's such a bad drought going on. And even I, after some of the news things I see, am thinking, I'm going to break my drought rule and take an extra shower today with twice as much soap because it's nasty. It's nasty. Yet, we're trained to believe that that's news. And this is what I said comes back to the education component of it. So some of you who are so passionate about what's going on right now, look at the other side of that coin. What's the positive? Because the news sure as shit isn't going to share that with you, because if they did, you're not going to need to watch them. And maybe perhaps one of your passions, part of your mission could become educating people about that. Letting people see that there's another side of the coin. Right? Another side of the coin. Because it's there. I mean, think about what you could just do in your local community. Think about it. Right? You don't have to go and knock on the door of the White House or the Buckingham Palace or wherever, and please forgive me if I don't know the main institution from wherever you are in the world, to make a difference. You can walk next door to your neighbor. You can walk across the street to your neighbor. You can call up your mom. You can hang out with your brother and say, hey, let's talk about how we can educate our local community. Teachers out there, or people who are parents who are also a teacher. Think about this. How many of you remember in school the whole reading, writing, arithmetic, and you sitting there doing a test thinking, God, this is so pointless, I'm never going to remember this. Okay? And then how many of you have ever had an experience thinking, God, I wish I would have been taught that life skill? Hello? Where's the bell? Ding, 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 ding. This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity. You don't need to go and tell your kids that the world's going to shit. Go and tell your kids about the choice they have to think and feel how they want. And then to put that energy, put that passion into it someplace. And lead by example too. Lead by the example. And so this is what we talk about as tip number 3. Well, actually the bonus tip, because we did beliefs. Tip number 3. Get rid of the negative stuff. Get rid of the negative stuff. News. Negative every waking second. News. Nothing even worth seeing. Get rid of it. Turn it off. Turn it off. When I was on Twitter earlier this year, I was following both sides. I was following Hillary and I was following Donald. It got to the point where the amount of garbage... I mean, I remember one day specifically, and this was my final straw. This was probably 6 months ago. I refreshed the feed, and there was literally an exchange between both of them that took up my whole phone screen. And it was so negative, and it was just them calling each other, insulting each other, calling each other names. And I took a screenshot of it, and I remember thinking, this is the example of leadership to our children. Name-calling, bullying. Give me a friggin' break. Which is why it's so much more important for each and every one of you to take this energy, take this passion, and think about the example you want to set. Leadership does not stop with who's in the White House or who's in charge or anything like that. Leadership starts with you. You don't like who's in charge? Think about what you're doing when you're typing out and saying all this, whatever it is you're saying. You think it's hateful out there? Put more love out. You think there's a lot of love? Put more out. You think you got screwed because your person lost? Put love out. You think you can put other people down because your person lost? Your person won? Put love out. Get rid of the negative thing. Get rid of the negative distractions. So take the news out. One of the things, and this comes back to the Facebook feed, and I apologize. I know I'm jumping around a little bit here. You can see that this is where my passion comes from. I've been going through now, and just anytime I see something that's too much, and I've not unfriended, but unfollowed a few people that, dear friends, love them to death. I just don't want to have that negativity because it affects me. I mean, I after I see a few of them, I'm thinking, maybe I need to start locking my doors more. Maybe I need to, do whatever it is. And I don't want to live my life that way. I really choose to believe that there is human beings as a species, we're inherently good, and that we are born from a place of love, that we're filled with love, that love is one of our main purposes. And do I get that? Sometimes it may be misspoken or misconstrued, and yeah, absolutely. And here's another thing too. I just want to speak to, and you can take this for what you want. I choose to believe. I really choose to believe that both sides who are running, they weren't running to be mean, awful, nasty people. I really choose to believe in my heart that both of them come from a place of wanting to make a change, wanting to make a difference. Now, do they necessarily represent that in the best way? No. I can tell you that having spoken with friends who are familiar acquaintances with both sides, both have said that neither one of them is like in private what they are necessarily represented on in the mainstream. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. There is a human behind the image that we see. So again, if you find something that's negative, if you find something that's bringing you down, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Remember that there's still humans back there and around there and out there, and people who are your friends and family who may have had a different belief with you or a different opinion as you. Don't put them down. Don't cast them out. Don't cross them off your Christmas list. Don't disinvite them from Thanksgiving. Choose to love. Choose to love. Be open to a conversation. You might learn something. I have learned so much this year from the friends of mine who have actually been open to having conversations about this. So much. So much. It's been fascinating to see. It's been absolutely fascinating. I've learned more this year, I think, or had it reinforced in a way about human behavior and emotions and how powerful our emotions are and belief systems than just about any other time in my life. I'm grateful for that. And I encourage you all to look for that there because it's there. But to see it, you're going to have to get rid of the negative stuff. You're going to have to get rid of the distractions. Because the negative stuff is what's going to sell you on keeping tied in. Have you noticed that you spend more time on Facebook, more time on Twitter with all the stuff going on, right? There's more to read, more to get fired up about. And then when you get off of it, do you feel good? No. You feel frustrated, angry, pissed off, whatever that is. Disgusted. Right? It's a selling point. Right? They sell you on the negativity to keep you hooked in because fear is good for business. Fear is good for business. If the news signed off and said, all right, good night, everybody, the world's great and it's full of love and there's a hell of a lot more good than bad, no problem. I remember I woke up on Wednesday morning. This is just a quick example. I remember I woke up on Wednesday morning, and and again, I'm not going to get too much in the politics of this, but I'm not familiar enough with the situation to really fully comment on it. But I remember that one of the fears that people are having is that Russia disengaged with talks, and of course, then they start talking nuclear and all these types of things, and blah blah blah. And I remember the first thing I saw when I woke up on Wednesday morning, I checked the news around 3:30. And there was a headline saying Putin had issued a statement wanting to resume negotiations with the U.S. and come back to a peaceful place. I thought, wow, that's pretty positive. That's a good thing, right? Right away. Taking nuclear war right off the table. That's awesome. And that story got buried. I mean, it got pushed down so much you can still see it here and there. It got buried because we had to go and focus on the people who are upset, people who are angry. And I'm thinking, wait, here's a positive thing right away. Nope, we don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the negative stuff. I mean, really, how many more of us would sleep better at night knowing that we don't have to worry about going to sleep and there's going to be a nuclear bomb going off? Is that an extreme? Yeah, but it's an extreme example of thinking about that for a second. Right? Think about it. Any of you had family who was around during World War II? I'm willing to bet they didn't sleep that well at night when their countries, their homes, their areas getting bombed and there's this war spilling out into the streets. We've all been privileged enough, for the most part, not to have that, especially if you're growing up in some sort of first world country, as we do in the United States, as many of you do in Europe and around the world. Right? Think about that. So get rid of the negativity. And lastly, I really want you to think about this too. Surround yourself with people who lift you up and support your beliefs. Support your beliefs, and that doesn't necessarily mean they believe what you believe, but they support the fact that you believe what you believe. If you have somebody in your life that is immediately casting you to the curb because you don't agree with them, you got to think about that, right? Your beliefs are your beliefs, and that's awesome that you have your beliefs. And if your beliefs are truly your beliefs, that's even more awesome. And surround yourself with people who lift you up, people who support your beliefs, right? I have some friends in my life, I see them tiptoeing around me. They don't even want to talk about things. And that's fine, because they're so fired up right now. Whatever side it is, they're so fired up. Life's too short. You want to make the next 4 years of your life the absolute best 4 years of your life? Take all this emotion you have. Figure out what it is you're so passionate about. Figure out what the positive of that passion is. Channel that emotion into that passion. Get rid of the negativity. Turn off the news, because there's nothing even worth seeing on there. Or negative, it's because it's negative every waking second. Start unfollowing, unsubscribing, getting rid of things that you deem negative on Facebook, on your social media, things that are just interjecting all sorts of stuff into you. And surround yourself with people who are going to lift you up. People who are going to inspire you, people who are going to move you. It doesn't matter if you don't agree, but that respect you that you don't agree. That support you that you don't agree. That can love you because you don't agree. Here's something to try on. If somebody doesn't have the same belief as you, if somebody voted differently than you, somebody has a different opinion about what the world should be, if somebody woke up and celebrated and somebody else didn't want to get out of bed because they're so sad, instead of chastising them, instead of faulting them, instead of blaming them, try loving them. Try loving them. Maybe that would change things. I believe it will. And I believe that we really are in an amazing time of change. Not because of who's elected or who wasn't elected or who ran or anything like that. I believe we're in an amazing time of change because we have the technology to interact like this. That we have the ability to connect with folks all over the world. And today we really truly are a global community. there's always going to be changes in power and changes in leadership. That's the way, those of you in the United States, that's the way democracy is set up. Inevitably, 4 years from now, if somebody else is in office or if Trump gets reelected, whatever it is, half the people are going to probably be upset, half of them are going to be happy. And then after that, it's going to be the same thing. I think the same thing happened when President Obama was elected. You had a portion of people that are upset, portion of people are celebrating. And Bush before him, and Clinton before him, and Bush, and then Reagan, and Carter, and Ford, and so on and so forth. All the way back through history. I mean, you can look at America right now. I think arguably one of the most celebrated people as an American president is Abraham Lincoln. He was not the most popular person when he was elected. There was other people. It was close. But yet he's one of the most celebrated. Why? Because half weren't happy and half were. That's the nature of it. But why we're in such a time of great change is because we're all connected. And we're aware. And we all have the power to choose our emotions, to channel that into something really special. Your life, the quality of your life, is not going to be determined by who's sitting in wherever. It's going to be determined by you. Because what you create in here and here, that's going to make up the overwhelming bulk substance of your life. It's truth. It's absolute truth. And I hope that you come away from this today with some tips and tools to make the next 4 years of your life the best 4 years of your life. And you understand that, at the end of the day, you're the captain of your ship. Which means it's you that gets to choose where you set sail to. It's you that gets to make that choice. I think that each and every one of you are amazing for being here right now. I'm honored to share the planet with each and every one of you. I know we probably don't all necessarily agree politically, and that's totally cool. And it's still an honor to share the planet with you. And I hope that you can take your passion and you choose to take it and channel it into something that changes your life, something that makes your life even greater. Please do not be one of those people that peaks emotionally right now and lets your emotion fizzle out and fade. Because then what happens is 4 years from now, we'll all be right back here having this conversation. You are the captain of your ship. You get to choose where you set sail. The quality of your life is determined by what's going to go on in here and in here. You were born with all that you needed to create an absolutely beautiful and amazing life. And I promise you, if you start right now, the next 4 years of your life will absolutely be the most amazing 4 years of your life. So much so that when the next election rolls around, you'll sit back with your sunglasses on and say, psh, doesn't matter to me who's there, because I'm good with me, and I'm going to make my life amazing no matter what. So I thank you all for being here today. I have 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I guess. Actually, I have 5 minutes. I have 5 minutes for questions if any of you have any questions. I hope this was of value to you. If you go through one whole day without complaining even a little bit, your whole life will change. Yeah, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I think oftentimes people complain because they believe that there's something better out there. Well, there's something better out there and you're complaining about it. Go get it. Go create it. Go make it. It starts with you. It starts with you. Any questions at all? Real quick. I have time for a couple of them. And I didn't get to read all the comments coming through, so I didn't see anything that looked not respectful or bad or anything like that. So I appreciate all of you being respectful of that and humoring me jumping around. I know I jumped around a little bit more than I usually do. This was something I was definitely pretty passionate about. I am pretty passionate about, which is all you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. We're good. No questions. I think then we're good. All right, everybody. I wish you an amazing rest of your night, your morning, your afternoon, your evening, wherever you are in the world. And I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. I send lots of love to you, to your friends, your family. And please, don't just walk away from this and do nothing. I mean it with all my heart. Take the emotion, take the passion that you're feeling in your life, and put it to work for you. And perhaps you have somebody that you're close to that has some passion that may not be being directed in the most positive way. And love them enough to try to educate them about how they could use their passion to really change their life. Don't let this be the peak. Make it just the start of this next summit. Okay? So again, sending love to all of you. I'll wrap up. I'm going to start getting, what's the word, wispy and emotional and all those types of things, and I don't want to take away from this. So, yeah, I think that's it. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Bye-bye.